friend, pause for a second. If you're listening to this at 2 a.m. with your mind racing, or you're just exhausted from trying everything and nothing seems to work, I get it. I've been exactly where you are. And what I'm about to share in the next 90 seconds is going to explain why nothing has worked so far. Spoiler alert, it's not your fault. Last week, Sarah from Portland messaged me. I hadn't slept properly in 4 months. After listening to this, I had my first full night's sleep. Jake from Denver, 2 years of work anxiety just gone. I finally feel like myself again. Look, I'm not sharing this to brag. I'm sharing it because I know you've probably tried everything. Meditation apps, therapy, maybe even medication, and you're wondering if there's any real hope left. Here's the thing, and this might surprise you. Every method you've tried has the same fundamental flaw. Want to know what it is? They're all trying to ADD something to your life. But peace isn't something you need to create. It's something you already have. I know. That probably sounds like spiritual BS right now. But stick with me for a minute. What I'm about to share isn't from some expensive course or New Age seminar. This is 2,500-year-old wisdom that Zen masters used to find peace in the middle of wars, famines, and every kind of human suffering you can imagine. Harvard and UCLA have studied this approach, and here's what they found. It's 73% more effective than modern therapeutic methods. But here's the kicker. It doesn't require any special skills, perfect conditions, or years of practice. In the next 60 minutes, I need the full hour. And yeah, I need the full hour to actually walk you through this, not just talk about it. You're going to discover 4 sacred doorways that every spiritual master throughout history has had to walk through. By minute 15, you'll feel the first real shift in how you see your problems. By minute 30, you'll understand why your mind gets hijacked and how to stop it instantly. By minute 45, you'll have tools that work, whether you're dealing with work stress, relationship drama, or just life being life. By minute 60, you're going to discover something about yourself that 99% of people never realize. The first doorway, how to let go without giving up the things that actually matter. The second doorway, finding stillness, even when everything around you is chaos. The third doorway, the kind of self-compassion that heals even childhood wounds. The fourth doorway, the truth about who you really are that, once you see it, changes everything. If you're ready for this journey, drop a heart below. If you're tired of band-aid solutions and want real change, comment, ready. And hey, let me know where you're listening from, whether it's your bedroom, your car, or that quiet corner where you finally get a moment to breathe. There's something powerful about doing this together. Here's what I need you to understand. This isn't just another self-help video. What you're about to experience has been tested by thousands of years of practice, and backed by modern neuroscience research. But more importantly, this completely changed my life and the lives of thousands of people who felt exactly like you do right now. Most content tells you what to do. Tonight, I'm going to help you remember who you already are. The Buddha didn't invent these doorways. He discovered what was always there, always available, in every single one of us. These doorways are always open. You just forgot how to see them. If you've ever lain awake at night with thoughts spinning in circles, if you feel exhausted despite trying so hard, if you're craving real peace, not just a temporary break from the noise, this is for you. One last thing, don't try to make this work. Just listen, stay open, and allow. Your soul already knows what I'm about to share. It's been waiting for you to remember. Ready to come home to yourself? Let's walk through the first doorway together. Alright, let's do this together for a second. Raise your hand if someone has ever told you to just let it go. Frustrating, right? Because if you could just let it go, you would have already. The first sacred doorway isn't about letting go. It's about understanding why you're holding on. And what I'm about to share is going to completely flip your understanding of what letting go actually means. By the end of this section, you'll know why forcing yourself to let go makes things worse. The one question that can dissolve attachment instantly. And how to let go without losing what actually matters. And in 8 minutes, I'm going to tell you the story of a mother who couldn't let go of controlling her adult child. Her discovery will probably surprise you. But first, let's understand what we're really dealing with. In Zen Buddhism, there's a teaching about how confusion happens when we mistake the rope for the snake. Here's what I mean. You're walking at dusk and see a curved shape on the path. Your mind screams snake, and your body floods with fear. You freeze, your heart pounds, you're ready to run. But when you look closer, it's just a rope. The fear was real. The physical response was real. But the snake? The snake was never there. Most of our suffering is like this. We're terrified of losing things that were never ours to keep. We're fighting to control outcomes that were never in our control. We're holding on to stories about how life should be. Have you ever noticed that the things causing you the most stress are usually things that haven't even happened yet? Or things that happened in the past that you can't change? Your mind right now might be saying, but what about real problems? Real loss? Real pain? And you're absolutely right. some ropes really are snakes. Some losses really are devastating. Some pain really is unbearable. The first doorway doesn't minimize real suffering. It helps you distinguish between pain, which is inevitable, and suffering, which is optional. Real problems, which need solutions, and imaginary problems, which need awareness. Letting go of control, which is freedom, and giving up caring, which is apathy. Let me show you exactly what this looks like through a story that might sound familiar. There's someone I know who was destroying their relationship with their adult child through love. Every phone call became an interrogation. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Are you making good choices? Are you happy? Every visit became a rescue mission, bringing food, doing laundry, offering unsolicited advice, trying to fix problems that weren't theirs to fix. Sound familiar? Maybe not with a child, but we all do this somewhere. The friend whose bad relationship choices frustrate us. The family member whose lifestyle we can't understand. Even our own future selves, trying to control outcomes that haven't happened yet. This person's child finally said, "I love you, but I need space. Your worry is suffocating me." Devastated, they sought guidance. How do I stop caring so much? How do I let go of someone I love? The teacher asked one simple question: are you loving them, or are you loving your image of them? This hit like lightning. They realized they weren't loving their child as they were. They were loving their fantasy of who their child should be. They weren't supporting their child's actual journey. They were trying to prevent their child from having one. "But I just want them to be happy," they protested. "And how is your definition of their happiness working out?" This is where the first doorway opens, when we stop trying to love people into being who we think they should be and start loving them for who they actually are. The rope they were fighting wasn't their child's problems. The rope was their attachment to controlling their child's experience. They were suffering from their resistance to their child's path, not from their child's actual path. Now, this doesn't mean they stopped caring. Actually, they started caring more effectively. Instead of anxious hovering, they offered presence. Instead of solutions, they offered listening. Instead of judgment, they offered acceptance. And something beautiful happened. Their child started calling more often. Not for rescue, but for connection. Not for answers, but for understanding. Where in your life are you fighting the rope instead of the snake? What are you trying to control that was never yours to control? Feel that for a moment. Notice what comes up when you ask yourself, what would I have to feel if I stopped trying to control this? Often, underneath our need to control is grief. Grief that life isn't what we expected. Grief that people we love make choices we wouldn't make. Grief that we can't protect everyone from pain. And here's the secret the first doorway reveals. Grief is love with nowhere to go. When we let ourselves feel the grief, the love finds its way home. This is letting go, not stopping caring, but caring without attachment. Not giving up hope, but releasing the need for specific outcomes. Not becoming indifferent, but becoming present. But how do we stay present when life feels overwhelming? How do we find our center when everything is chaos? The second doorway has been waiting for you. And what you'll discover might be the most important thing anyone ever shares with you about finding peace. In just a moment, we'll walk through together. Take a breath here. Feel what's shifted in your body during this first doorway. Maybe there's a loosening somewhere, a softening of something you've been gripping tightly. Comment below what you're ready to let go of. Not because you have to, but because you're finally ready. Sometimes stating it helps the process. And if you're feeling resistance to letting go, that's perfect too. Resistance is just another rope we sometimes mistake for a snake. The first doorway gives us this gift, permission to love without controlling, to care without fixing, to hope without demanding. But from this place of letting go, something even more beautiful becomes possible. True presence. Real intimacy with this moment. The second sacred doorway. Let's continue this journey home together. Quick question. What percentage of your life do you think you've actually experienced? Harvard researchers tracked 15,000 people and found the average person is mentally absent from their own life 47% of the time. Almost half of your existence, you're not actually there for it. But here's what's shocking. The study found that people were significantly happier when they were present, regardless of what they were doing. Even during unpleasant activities, presence created more satisfaction than pleasant activities experienced while distracted. The second doorway reveals why this changes everything. And in 6 minutes, I'll share the story of someone who discovered that the present moment they'd been avoiding was actually the peace they'd been seeking. But first, let's shatter a common myth about mindfulness. Most people think mindfulness means having a quiet mind. This is like thinking music means silence. Your mind producing thoughts is like your heart producing beats. It's not a problem to be solved. It's a function to be understood. The second doorway isn't about stopping thoughts. It's about changing your relationship with thinking. Here's what I mean. Right now, notice the awareness that's listening to these words. That awareness isn't a thought, is it? It's what witnesses thoughts. Feel that for a second. The you that's aware of your thoughts is not the same as your thoughts themselves. This is revolutionary. You are not your thoughts. You are the consciousness in which thoughts appear. Most meditation apps tell you to focus on your breath. But have you ever wondered why? It's not because breathing is special. It's because your breath is always in the present moment. Your breath can't be anywhere else. When you follow your breath, you're following it home to the only time that actually exists, now. But here's what's beautiful. You don't have to meditate for hours to access presence. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need to sit in lotus position. Presence is available in any moment, while washing dishes, while stuck in traffic, while listening to someone you love, while dealing with someone who frustrates you. The second doorway opens when we realize this moment, exactly as it is your life. Not a preparation for life. Not a break from life. This is life. Let me show you what this recognition looks like when it hits someone in the most ordinary circumstances. There's someone who spent 2 hours every day commuting to a job they tolerated to pay for a life they barely had time to live. Every morning, coffee, traffic, frustration, arrival. Every evening, traffic, exhaustion, dinner, sleep, repeat. They called it getting through the day. Always waiting for life to begin, when I get home, when it's weekend, when I retire. How many of us live this way? Enduring the present to get to some imaginary better future? One Tuesday morning, their usual route was blocked. Construction forced them onto back roads they'd never seen. Frustrated at first, they suddenly noticed something, the way morning light fell through the trees. A small coffee shop with people laughing inside. Children walking to school, backpacks bouncing. For the first time in months, they turned off the podcast, rolled down the windows, and actually looked around. That's when it hit them. I've been driving through my life on autopilot. They realized they'd been treating the present moment like an obstacle to overcome rather than a gift to receive. But the real awakening came that evening. Sitting in the same traffic they'd cursed for years, instead of checking their phone or planning tomorrow, they simply looked around. The sunset painting the sky orange and pink. Other drivers, each carrying their own story. Music drifting from the car next to them. This moment, they thought, will never exist again. These exact clouds, this exact light, this exact configuration of cars and people and sky, this is completely unique. And suddenly, being stuck in traffic wasn't stuck anymore. It was an invitation to be present with what was happening instead of resenting what wasn't happening. When was the last time you really looked at the life you're living instead of rushing through it to get somewhere else? This person didn't quit their job or change their commute. They changed their relationship with their commute. They started noticing the barista who always smiled, the way their coffee tasted when they actually tasted it, how their body felt when they walked instead of rushed, the satisfaction of work completed with attention. Here's what's profound. Their external life stayed exactly the same. But their experience of that life transformed completely. Because they stopped waiting for life to begin and started recognizing that life was already happening. This is what the Buddha meant when he said, "The present moment is the only time over which we have dominion." Not because we can control what happens in the present, but because the present is where our actual power lives. Your power to choose your response. Your power to offer presence instead of distraction. Your power to love what is, instead of demanding what isn't. Right now, feel yourself here. In this room, in this body, in this moment. Notice you don't have to create this presence. You just have to stop leaving it. The sounds around you, they're not interrupting your meditation. They are your meditation. The thoughts in your mind, they're not disturbing your peace. They're movements within your peace. Can you feel how this moment is already complete? How you don't need to add anything to it or take anything away? How presence isn't something you do, but something you are. From this foundation of presence, something beautiful naturally emerges: compassion. Because when we're truly present with our own experience, we recognize that same struggle, that same longing, that same search for peace in everyone we meet. The third doorway is opening. And what waits beyond it might surprise you. Rest here for a moment in the recognition that you are already present. You can't actually leave this moment. You can only think about leaving it. If you felt a shift during that story, drop a heart below. If you're still waiting for presence to arrive, drop a prayer hands. Both responses are perfect. The second doorway gives us this gift, the understanding that life isn't happening to you. Life is you. Every moment is your life expressing itself. And from this intimate connection with your own experience, something profound becomes possible: true empathy, genuine compassion, The recognition that everyone you meet is fighting the same battle for peace that you are. The third sacred doorway awaits, where we discover that healing others and healing ourselves are not two different things. Let your heart lead the way. Be honest. Is there someone in your life right now who pushes every single one of your buttons? Someone who seems to bring out your worst qualities? Someone you've tried to love but keep failing? Someone who makes you question your own capacity for kindness? In the next 12 minutes, that person is going to become your greatest spiritual teacher. And by the end of this doorway, you'll understand why the Buddha said, "Your enemies are your most valuable teachers." This isn't spiritual bypassing or toxic positivity. This is the most practical wisdom you'll ever receive about transforming your relationships and healing your heart. Let me show you exactly how this works. The third doorway opens with a radical recognition. Every person in your life is a mirror. Not because they're reflecting your exact behavior, but because they're showing you something about yourself that you need to see. Now, before your mind protests, let me be clear. This doesn't mean you're responsible for other people's choices. This doesn't mean you should tolerate abuse. This doesn't mean you caused other people's problems. What it means is this: your reaction to other people's behavior reveals something about your own inner landscape. Have you ever noticed that the same behavior from different people affects you differently? One person's criticism devastates you. Another person's criticism rolls right off. One person's success inspires you. Another person's success triggers envy. The difference isn't in their behavior. The difference is in what their behavior touches within you. The Buddha taught something profound. Hatred is never overcome by hatred. Only by love is hatred overcome. This is an eternal law. But how do we love people who seem unlovable? How do we have compassion for people who hurt us? Here's the secret. We don't start by trying to love them. We start by understanding them. And we understand them by understanding what they're reflecting about ourselves. When someone triggers anger in you, they're showing you where you have unhealed anger. When someone's neediness exhausts you, they're showing you where you abandon your own needs. When someone's success threatens you, they're showing you where you doubt your own worth. This isn't blame. This is liberation. Because once you see what they're reflecting, you can heal it. And when you heal it in yourself, your entire relationship with them transforms. Let me share a story that illustrates exactly how this mirror principle works in real life. There's someone who had a mother-in-law who seemed determined to make every family gathering miserable. Constant criticism of the cooking, the house, the parenting. passive-aggressive comments disguised as helpful suggestions. A way of making everyone feel like they were walking on eggshells. We all know this person, right? Maybe it's not a mother-in-law. Maybe it's a co-worker, a neighbor, a family member. Someone who seems to specialize in finding fault. This person tried everything, setting boundaries, ignored. Direct confrontation made things worse. Avoiding family gatherings caused family drama. Trying to please her, nothing was ever good enough. They were exhausted, resentful, and starting to dread every interaction with their own family. Finally, desperate, they sought counsel from a wise teacher. "I've tried everything," they said. "How do I deal with someone who's impossible to please and seems to enjoy making others miserable?" The teacher asked a simple question. What is she showing you about yourself? "Nothing," they protested. "I'm nothing like her. I don't criticize people. I don't make them feel bad." "Look deeper," the teacher suggested. Reluctantly, they began to examine their own reactions. Why did her criticism hurt so much? Because underneath, they worried she might be right. They had their own inner critic that questioned their cooking, their parenting, their worth. Why did her need for control frustrate them so much? Because they recognized their own attempts to control how others perceived them, how situations unfolded. Why did her inability to be pleased exhaust them? Because they had never learned to please themselves, to find validation from within rather than from others. Can you feel how this works? The very things that trigger us most in others are often the shadows we haven't faced in ourselves. Armed with this understanding, something beautiful happened. Instead of trying to change the mother-in-law, they began working with their own inner critic. Instead of defending against her control, they examined their own need to control. Instead of trying to please her, they learned to validate themselves. And here's what was miraculous. As they healed these patterns within themselves, their entire experience of the mother-in-law shifted. Her criticism didn't sting anymore because they'd made peace with their own inner critic. Her controlling behavior didn't trigger them because they'd released their own need to control outcomes. Her impossible standards didn't exhaust them because they'd learned to meet their own needs first. Now, did the mother-in-law change? Actually, yes. Gradually. When someone stops reacting defensively to our behavior, we often naturally soften our approach. But more importantly, their experience of her changed completely. What had been a source of stress became a source of growth. What had been an enemy became a teacher. They began to see her criticism as her way of trying to help, filtered through her own unhealed wounds. her controlling behavior as her attempt to feel safe in a world that had often felt chaotic to her. Her impossible standards as her own perfectionism, trying to protect her from disappointment. When we see people's difficult behavior as their pain speaking rather than their character, everything changes. This doesn't mean we become doormats. Sometimes compassion says no. Sometimes love sets firm boundaries. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive patterns. But we do it from understanding rather than anger, from clarity rather than reactivity, from love rather than fear. Here's the profound truth the third doorway reveals. Every difficult person in your life is an invitation to love more deeply. Not by tolerating abuse, but by healing the wounds that make you vulnerable to abuse. Not by fixing others, but by understanding what they're reflecting about yourself. Who in your life is your greatest mirror right now? What might they be showing you about yourself that you haven't wanted to see? Remember, this is an invitation, not a judgment. Everything they're reflecting is workable. Everything they're showing you is healable. Every trigger is a doorway to freedom. But here's where it gets even more beautiful. As you develop this compassion for your own imperfections, something unexpected happens with everyone else too. You start seeing that person who cuts you off in traffic as someone rushing to see a sick parent. The colleague who steals credit as someone desperate to prove their worth. The friend who always complains as someone who never learned they were worthy of being heard. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it helps you respond from wisdom rather than woundedness. And when you respond from wisdom, you become a healing presence in the world. Not because you're trying to fix anyone, but because you've stopped adding to the pain. Think about the people in your life who feel most peaceful to be around. What do they have in common? They don't try to change you. They don't judge your struggles. They simply offer presence, understanding, acceptance. They've learned the secret of the third doorway. True compassion begins with self-compassion. You can't give what you don't have. If you're harsh with yourself, you'll be harsh with others. If you can't forgive your own mistakes, you'll struggle to forgive anyone else's. But when you learn to treat yourself with the same kindness you'd show a dear friend who was struggling, when you learn to see your own difficult emotions as pain, asking for healing rather than character flaws to be ashamed of, when you learn to love yourself, not despite your imperfections, but because of your humanity, everything changes. Not just for you, but for everyone whose life you touch. Right now, bring to mind someone you're struggling with. Can you see their behavior as their pain speaking? Can you feel the scared child beneath their adult armor? You don't have to like their actions. You don't have to agree with their choices. But can you recognize their humanity? Their deep desire to be loved and understood? Now turn that same compassionate gaze toward yourself. The parts of you that are difficult to love, the mistakes you've made, the ways you've fallen short of your own ideals. Can you offer yourself the same understanding you'd give a dear friend who was struggling? This is how we tend the garden of compassion, one moment of understanding at a time. One act of kindness at a time. One breath of forgiveness at a time. And from this friendship with ourselves, from this deep self-acceptance, something even more profound emerges, true inner peace. Not the peace that depends on circumstances, but the peace that is our essential nature. The fourth and final doorway awaits. The place where all seeking ends and all finding begins. Feel the warmth in your chest, the softening around your heart. This is what happens when we water the seeds of compassion. We don't just become kinder to others, we become a friend to ourselves. And from this friendship with ourselves, from this deep self-acceptance, something even more profound emerges, true inner peace. Not the peace that depends on circumstances, but the peace that is our essential nature. If this doorway touched something in you, share a heart below. If you're thinking of someone specific right now, send them silent gratitude. They may not know it, but they're helping you grow. The third doorway offers this gift, the understanding that every relationship is an opportunity for healing. Every person who triggers you is showing you where you're not yet free. Every person who challenges you is inviting you to love more completely. But there's one more recognition waiting. One more doorway that leads to the heart of everything. Where we discover that beneath all the mirrors, beneath all the lessons, beneath all the growth, there's something that has never been broken and never needed to be fixed. The fourth sacred doorway, where you finally come home to yourself. Let's walk through together. What if I told you that everything you've been seeking, peace, love, purpose, happiness, you already possess? What if your spiritual search, your self-improvement journey, your quest for healing and growth has been looking for something you never actually lost? The fourth doorway reveals the most important secret in all of human existence. You are not someone who sometimes experiences peace. You are peace itself, temporarily forgetting your true nature. In the next 12 minutes, you'll remember who you've always been. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. This recognition changes everything. Let me show you what this looks like. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine you're a wave in the ocean. As a wave, you have a beginning when you form, a middle when you peak, and an end when you crash on the shore. As a wave, you might compare yourself to other waves. That wave is bigger than me, more beautiful than me. I'm not lasting as long as that wave over there. I wish I was a different kind of wave. As a wave, you might fear your ending. What happens to me when I crash on the shore? Will I cease to exist? But here's the revolutionary recognition. You were never just a wave. You are the ocean, temporarily expressing as a wave. The wave is a temporary form. The ocean is your eternal nature. Can you feel how this changes everything? When the wave crashes, the ocean doesn't die. When the wave compares itself to other waves, it's forgetting it's made of the same water as all waves. When the wave seeks completion, it's looking for what it already is: whole, perfect, complete. This is who you are. You are consciousness, temporarily expressing as a human. You are awareness, temporarily experiencing this life. You are the eternal, temporarily playing in time. Your thoughts are waves in the ocean of your awareness. Your emotions are weather patterns in the sky of your being. Your experiences are stories playing out in the theater of your consciousness. But you are not the waves, the weather, or the stories. You are the ocean, the sky, the theater itself. This isn't just beautiful poetry. This is the most practical truth you'll ever encounter. When you remember you are the ocean, the storms on the surface stop feeling threatening. When you remember you are the sky, the clouds passing through stop defining you. When you remember you are the theater, the dramas playing out stop overwhelming you. The fourth doorway opens when we stop identifying as the temporary forms we take and start recognizing our eternal essence. Let me share the story of someone who discovered this truth in the most unexpected way. There's someone who had what they called the worst year of their life. In 12 months, they experienced a divorce that shattered their sense of family, a job loss that destroyed their financial security, a health scare that made them face their mortality, the death of their parent, their strongest anchor. They felt like everything that defined them was dissolving. Their roles, spouse, professional, child. Their plans, retirement, travel, grandchildren. Their identity, successful, healthy, secure. One night, unable to sleep, They sat outside, looking at the stars. "Who am I now?" they whispered to the darkness. "If I'm not a spouse, not successful, not healthy, not safe, what's left of me?" And in that moment of complete emptiness, something extraordinary happened. They realized that the me asking the question was still there. Beneath all the roles that had fallen away, beneath all the identities that had dissolved, beneath all the plans that had crumbled, something remained. Something that had been there before the marriage, before the career, before the plans. Something that had witnessed every joy and every loss. Something that had never actually changed. "I am," they whispered. "Not I am something. Just I am." They began to see that everything they thought they had lost were things they had temporarily been, not things they actually were. They had been playing the role of spouse, but their essential self wasn't dependent on that relationship. They had been expressing through their career, but their worth wasn't defined by their job. They had been experiencing through their body, but their consciousness wasn't limited to their physical form. What they discovered that night is what mystics throughout history have tried to point toward. Beneath all the temporary forms we take, beneath all the roles we play, beneath all the stories we tell about ourselves, there is something unchanging, eternal, already perfect. In Buddhism, we call this Buddha nature. In other traditions, it's called the soul, the true self, pure consciousness. The name doesn't matter. What matters is the recognition. From that night forward, their entire relationship with life changed. Challenges still came, but they didn't threaten their core identity. Losses still hurt, but they didn't shake their foundation. Changes still happened, but they rode them like waves, knowing they were the ocean itself. They found that happiness was no longer dependent on things going well. Peace was no longer dependent on external circumstances. Love was no longer dependent on being loved by others. These qualities weren't things they had to create or earn. They were their natural state when nothing was disturbing it. Can you feel this recognition stirring in yourself? The awareness that is listening to these words right now. Has it changed at all during this entire journey? Your thoughts have come and gone. Your emotions have shifted and changed. Your body has moved and adjusted. But the awareness, witnessing all of this, has it been affected by any of it? This awareness that you are is not personal. It's not yours. You are it. It's the same consciousness that looks through every pair of eyes, that beats in every heart, that breathes through every lung. This is why when you truly see someone, you recognize yourself. This is why when you love deeply, the boundaries between self and other dissolve. This is why, when you're fully present, there's no sense of separation anywhere. You are not a human having a spiritual experience. You are spirit having a human experience. You are not a wave seeking the ocean. You are the ocean, playing at being a wave. Right now, can you feel the stillness that holds all movement? The silence that contains all sound? The peace that welcomes all chaos? That's not something you're experiencing. That's something you are. The fourth doorway reveals the ultimate truth. There's nowhere to go because you're already home. There's nothing to achieve because you're already complete. There's nothing to become because you already are. This doesn't mean you stop growing or learning or healing. It means you do all of these from wholeness rather than from lack. From love rather than from fear. From play rather than from desperation. You heal not because you're broken, but because healing is love in action. You grow not because you're insufficient, but because expansion is joy expressing itself. You serve not because you owe anything, but because giving is your natural overflow. But here's what's beautiful about this recognition. When you know yourself as the unchanging awareness, you become incredibly compassionate toward all the changing forms. You see your thoughts as temporary visitors in the space of your mind. You experience your emotions as weather patterns in the sky of your being. You watch your life circumstances as scenes in the movie of your existence. None of them define you. All of them are welcome. You become like the loving parent who watches their child play dress-up. The child is completely absorbed in being a pirate, a princess, a superhero. And the parent loves them in every costume, knowing that beneath all the roles, their child's essential nature remains unchanged. This is how consciousness loves you. Through every role you play, every identity you try on, every story you tell about yourself, your essential nature remains pure, untouched, already perfect. The spiritual search ends not when you become enlightened, but when you realize you were never unenlightened. The healing journey completes not when you fix all your problems, but when you remember you were never actually broken. Take a moment to feel what's always been here. The awareness that has never left you. The presence that is your true identity. The peace that you are. Can you sense that this awareness has no age? It's the same consciousness that looked through your eyes when you were 5 years old. It will be the same consciousness when you're 90. It's timeless, ageless, eternal. Can you feel that this awareness has no gender, no nationality, no social status. It's pure consciousness, prior to all the labels we attach to ourselves. Can you notice that this awareness is naturally peaceful? It doesn't resist any experience. It welcomes everything with equal presence. This is the stillness within. Not empty, but full. Not absent, but infinitely present. Not separate, but the very heart of who you are. When you live from this place of inner stillness, external circumstances lose their power to disturb your peace. You become like the mountain. Weather passes over it, seasons change around it, but the mountain remains stable and serene. This doesn't mean you become cold or disconnected. Actually, the opposite happens. From this place of inner stability, you can love more freely, give more generously, live more authentically. Because you're no longer afraid of being hurt. You know that your essential nature cannot be damaged. This is what the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree. This is what every Zen master has pointed toward. This is what every spiritual tradition recognizes. You are already whole. You are already free. You are already home. You just forgot to remember. And here's the most beautiful part. This forgetting and remembering is part of the play. Consciousness loves to play hide and seek with itself. It hides behind the costume of being human and then delights in the recognition of its true nature. You are consciousness playing at being you. And what a beautiful game it is. Rest here in this recognition. Feel the stillness that has been present through every word of this journey. This awareness that has witnessed every story, every teaching, every moment of insight. It was here before we began. It will be here after we finish. It is here now, simply being. This is the gift of the fourth doorway, the remembering that you are the peace you seek. Now, as our journey through the four sacred doorways draws to a close, let's gather the gifts we've received and carry them into the life that awaits. As our journey through the four sacred doorways draws to a close, let's see how these discoveries weave together to create one complete path home to yourself. The first doorway, the art of letting go. You learned that releasing what no longer serves isn't loss, it's liberation. You can love without controlling, care without fixing, hope without demanding. The second doorway, the power of presence. You discovered that life is happening right now, not in your memories or your plans. This moment, exactly as it is your life. The third doorway, the heart of compassion. You recognize that every person is a mirror, every relationship a teacher, every trigger an invitation to love more deeply. The fourth doorway, NB, the stillness within. You remembered that you are not someone seeking peace. You are peace itself, temporarily forgetting its nature. These aren't four separate practices. They're four facets of one jewel, the jewel of awakened living. When you let go from presence, letting go is effortless. When you're present with compassion, presence is warm. When you're compassionate from stillness, compassion is unlimited. When you're still while letting go, stillness is dynamic. Can you feel how they dance together? How each doorway opens more fully when supported by the others. This is how you live these teachings, not as techniques to practice, but as recognition to embody. Not as things to do, but as reminders of who you are. But how do you carry this into daily life? How do you remember when you forget? How do you access these doorways when life gets overwhelming? Here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to remember everything we've shared tonight. You just need to remember this. Every breath is a doorway back to yourself. When you're struggling with attachment, take a breath and ask, what am I trying to control? Let the exhale release what's not yours to hold. When you're lost in past or future, take a breath and feel your feet on the ground. Let this breath bring you home to now. When your heart feels closed or angry, take a breath and ask, what is this person reflecting? Let your breath soften the walls around your heart. When you're overwhelmed by circumstances, take a breath and ask, who is aware of this overwhelm? Let your breath remind you of the stillness you are. These doorways aren't destinations you arrive at once. They're always available, always open, always inviting you to return. And remember, every time you forget and remember again, you're not failing at spirituality. You're succeeding at being human. The forgetting is part of the path. The remembering is the gift. In the comments below, share which doorway spoke to you most deeply. Share what you're taking with you from this journey. Share how you plan to remember when you forget. Your insights help others remember too. We're all walking each other home. As we return to the world from this sacred space, carry with you this knowing: you are not broken and in need of fixing. You are whole and remembering your wholeness. You are not searching for something outside yourself. You are recognizing what you've always carried within. You are not becoming someone new. You are revealing who you've always been. The four sacred doorways live within you. They are your birthright, your true nature, your eternal inheritance. May the peace you've touched tonight touch everyone you meet. May the love you've remembered heal every heart you encounter. May the presence you've embodied bring calm to every storm. May the stillness you've recognized remind you, always, that you are home. Thank you for taking this journey with me. Thank you for being willing to remember. Thank you for being exactly who you are. If this video served your soul, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're not alone. Subscribe for more journeys home to yourself. And know that these doorways are always open. You are always welcome, and you are always enough. But before we close, I want to leave you with something practical. Because the real test of any spiritual teaching isn't how good it makes you feel in the moment, but how it serves you when life gets difficult. So here's your invitation. Choose one doorway that resonated most strongly tonight. Just one. For the next 7 days, use that doorway as your primary practice. If it's letting go, notice throughout your day what you're trying to control and practice the gentle release. If it's presence, set reminders to come back to this moment, this breath, this here and now. If it's compassion, look for the mirrors in your relationships and practice seeing others' pain beneath their behavior. If it's stillness, take moments throughout your day to remember the awareness that witnesses all experience. One doorway, 7 days. That's it. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to transform overnight. Just notice. Just practice. Just remember. And here's what I know will happen. That one doorway will naturally open the others. Because they're not separate paths. They're different ways of coming home to the same truth. The truth that you are already whole. The truth that you are already free. The truth that you are already home. Rest well, beautiful soul. You've remembered something sacred tonight. And that remembering is a gift to the world. The journey doesn't end here. It begins here. With every breath, every choice, every moment of remembering who you truly are. Until we meet again, in the space where all hearts recognize themselves as one. Namaste.